Now, we'll do something quickly of a slightly different kind. As I told you earlier also on one occasion that Savitri, Book of Love, is a very sweet book, you see. And the kind of flavor which is there, the rasa, the essence which is there, you would not find not only elsewhere in Savitri, but anywhere else in the entire literature. The rasa of the Book of Love is absolutely divine in its content. And it is that new flavor which has come into expression, into poetry, which does not exist anywhere at all, you see. Now, according to the classical Indian system of enjoying the creative art, in the most general sense, the creative art, there are different types of flavors. And Bharata, so he initiated the theory of aesthetic enjoyment. Bharat, he is the first aesthetician who has given the theory of literary enjoyment. And according to him, there are 8 main flavors. 8 main flavors of creative art. And the 8 flavors are Shringara, that is love, Hasya, that is laughter, Raudra, fury, Karunya, compassion, pity, Bibhatsa, disgust, Bhayanak, horror, terrifying, Viram, heroic mood, Adbhuta, amazement, wonder. So he says that in a rich creative art, in different shades, all these rasas, all these flavors will be present. Shringara, Hasya, Raudra, Bibhatsa, Bhayanak, Veera and Adbhuta. These are the 8 rasas according to him. Now, what we have most prominently in the Book of Love is this Shringara rasa, the Book of Love, the form of romantic beauty and joy and happiness, something which comes from the depths of your heart. That is Shringara rasa, you see. Now, according to Bharata, each of this flavor, rasa, is presided by a deity, by a god. The deity who presides the Shringara, love, is Vishnu himself. Vishnu is the god of love, and it is he who presides this rasa, this flavor. So when we read Shrebandu Savitri, Book of Love, the person who really stands in front of us, should stand in front of us, is Vishnu, in his beautiful form, in his bright form. It is he who should really come out in front of us, Vishnu, you see. Then of course there is Hasya, mirth, Pramatha, Raudra, fury, anger. The presiding deity is Rudra, that is Shiva, and his color is red. Karunya, compassion. Yama himself is the presiding deity of compassion. In fact, that is what we have in a certain sense, Yama here. Death is what that means, Karunya. Bibhatsa, disgusting, which is repulsive, which is ugly, which throws you back. Aversion, the presiding deity is Shiva, and the color is blue. Bhayanak, horror. We have some of these things there in Savitri. We shall see them as separately. Presently what we have got is only the Sringara part of it, this part of it, see, Sringara. See. Viram, heroic mood, when Savitri is fighting against Yama, against death, then you see the heroic action of Savitri there, fully you see. And Adbhuta, the book of everlasting day, that is the most amazing kind of a thing, wonder. So that is what we have got in book 11, Adbhuta, wonder and amazement, in that canto you see. Now these are the basic rasas, and we do find in Savitri this present in different degrees in different places, according to this thing. In fact, that is the richness of an epic. Epic must have all these flavors, all the aspects of human emotion, human relationship, human aesthetic enjoyment. Then only the epic becomes complete, not until then. And we have this thing that here this particular book is depicting the Sringara rasa of it. Well, let me show you. One second, huh? Yeah, 1 second. Now, see, this is the, I don't know whether you are able to see this in properly. Yeah. Sringara, the Bharatanatyam, how the bhava is shown, how she depicts the Sringara part of it, Sringara rasa, see, Bharatanatyam. And this is Raudra, fiery. This is Raudra. This is the fiery part of it. You can see her face. Durga, really she is furious. See. Her eyes particularly, see the expression here? Yeah. That is the Raudra part of it, you see. Raudra bhava. Mood. This is Raudra mood. Bhava. Mood, you see. And she is depicting it very nicely, this one. And this is the Sringara part of it. Adbhuta. Now, what Bharata is Natya Shastra, the theory of aesthetic enjoyment of drama. What he did not mention is the rasa of peace, Shanta. Shantam. That was added as the 9th rasa by Abhinava about 1200 years ago, Abhinava of Kashmir. Abhinava suggested the 9th rasa, Shantam, or peace or tranquility. Now, his color is blue, his god is Vishnu, and that kind of thing here you see. Basically, in a way, Bharat is justified in not mentioning Shanta rasa of peace, the rasa, the essence. He is justified in not mentioning. Because for any good creative expression, that is taken for granted as a foundation of expression. It is on the basis of peace, of tranquility, of shanti, that all the other expressions can occur. You can be Raudra in a very, very peaceful, dignified, noble manner, and it is assumed that that Shanta rasa is present behind the Raudra, behind the Sringara. It is assumed that it is taken. Unless that base is there, that support is there, that Adhar is there, that rasa cannot sustain itself. So in that sense, I will say Bharat was quite justified not explicitly mentioning separately the Shanta rasa, the flavor of peace, the quality. In fact, even when you go to the most horrifying, most fearful descriptions in Savitri, Book 2, Canto 8, the descent into the night, the word of falsehood, ignorance and all that kind of thing. Even when you go there, you don't really get afraid of them. Because the base on which it is founded is the Shant, the peace. It is that peace which will protect you everywhere, even when you enter into that region. It does not touch you at all, you see. You enjoy it, you see it, you witness it, but you don't get affected because you're already always surrounded by the luminous peace which is always there with you. So it is understood that the Shanta Rasa is all pervasive in all the rasas, and therefore it need not be explicitly mentioned. And I will justify Bharat in not mentioning or pointing out separately. And perhaps it is to some extent a kind of an analytical mind which came later on in Abhinava, that he introduced Shanta Rasa as the ninth rasa. It is not necessary in my way of seeing. What do you say? You agree?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Is a Santam, is it the same as Shanti?
Shanti.
Same thing, the
Yeah.
same root?
Shanti, Shantam. Yeah. Shantam is an adjective, Shanti is a kind of noun. Yeah. Same thing basically. Om Shanti, Shanti. That is what you trying to say. Shantam, peaceful, quiet, tranquil.
Each color has come from white.
Calm and white. Yeah.
So white is there, one color.
White is?
White is also a color.
Yes. So,
But all the colors have derived from white.
white, that's right, exactly.
So Shanta
Is the basic rasa. Is the basic rasa which is pervasive. It is, you can say, no, it is not color that they have merged into each other. It is not. It is the base, the support for any expression. It is a base. No, it's not a support, no. It is kind of masking all the other rasas, all the other colors. Shanta is the base, the support, the adhara, sthai bhava, on which you stand. It is in that calmness Avenue is dictating line after line after line, without kind of getting, so to say, emotionally disturbed or perturbed or affected by them. Whether he is describing falsehood or ignorance or Divine Mother or fight with Yama or whatever it is, same flow, the same Shanta is present everywhere throughout. When he is describing Savitri's yoga, when he is describing Ashwapati's yoga, when he is describing the meeting of Ashwapati and the Divine Mother, it is a Shanta Rasa which is always present there. Even in the book of love, behind the Sringara, what do you really see? The Sringara becomes prominent and luminous and acceptable because behind it, under it, is Shanta. Any line you read from Savitri's book of love, you see below that tranquility, always present. So these are the different bhavas or the moods of expression: love, mirth, sorrow, anger, energy, terror, disgust, astonishment. That is how things go on. Now, this is what we have got in the traditional theory of the rasas. Does Sri Aurobindo subscribe to these theories of Bharat? In a way, yes. In a different way, he takes it forward. He takes it forward. And for any aesthetic enjoyment and expression and fulfillment, what has to appear ultimately are these five suns. In the context of poetry, he says the five suns should dazzle in your work. The five suns, the sun of truth. Whatever you say is founded on truth, is truth. Sun of beauty, of aesthetic perfection. Sun of delight. It has to be happiness, joy in the expression. Even if you are describing ugly thing, there has to be a kind of a different joy to really go behind the spirit of that ugliness and see what it is made of. how it has become so. The delight, the sun of life, of vivacity, of living together, and of course the sun of power, the strength, it has to be there. So unless the sun, these five suns are present, no artistic work would be really fulfilling. According to Sri Aurobindo future poetry, all these five suns should shine out, and when they do shine out, then you have the true, the most revealing mantra. The utterance which comes out then becomes the mantric utterance. Of course, it can happen that in some place it is the sun of truth which is brighter, the sun of life, or the sun of life brighter somewhere than the sun of beauty. It is that aspect which comes out, but all the five suns have to be simultaneously present in different degrees, in different proportions. They have to be present there. Then only the work becomes really complete. And in the context of poetry, when Sri Aurobindo speaks of the five suns of poetry, and when they are working in the creator's consciousness, the artist, then he says that we have what he calls the overhead poetry. The origin of overhead poetry lies in the presence of these five suns. Overhead, which is above the mental levels. He describes four steps of overhead consciousness: higher mind, illumined mind, intuition, and overmind. So that is the overhead poetry. Now the overhead poetry will come out in different degrees when the different suns are present in it. When they are present here. Of course, we are living in the world of overmind, and therefore the highest expression is overmind. The supramental word is yet to come. That will come with the arrival of the supramental being, the supramental race. We don't know what it will be, but it is bound to come there, you see. So in the book of love, what we might say is that the first three suns shine in their majestic splendor. In the book of love, you see. With the sun of beauty leading the other two. Sun of beauty is more prominent than the sun of truth and sun of delight, you see. So if you have to really kind of assess from the point of view of poetic quality the book of love, I will say the most prominent is the sun of beauty, supported by other. In the book of love, the first three suns shine in their majestic splendor, the sun of beauty leading the other two, you see. In other places there are other things, you see. Actually this needs a much greater discussion, explanation, understanding, analysis, but this is enough to get a little idea of what the aesthetic theory would kind of lead us to, where it should lead us to. Book of Love is in that sense is a very significant book from that point of view. It stands out very prominently in that.